In the beginning of the film, a woman is shown taking her own life and lying dead on the bed. Then her younger daughter, Rose, discovers her mother's body. We can tell by the state of the room that this woman, Rose's mother, had become mentally ill as a result of her husband's death. Rose was alone with her mother because her older sister had abandoned her and gone to live with someone else. Looking around, it was clear that Rose's mother used to take pills to relax. She had taken too much medicine today, which resulted in her death. This was the past, and now we're in the present, in 2022, where Rose has grown up a lot and is a brain doctor. She works and researches all hours of the day and night to find a solution or treatment for her so that no one else dies from a mental illness like her mother. That is, no one should suffer from a mental illness that would lead to death. Here she meets a completely insane patient who is always afraid that everyone will die. Because Rose is afraid of him, he keeps repeating that no one will be saved and that everyone will die. Everything is out of control. She is examined every day by a senior doctor, who advises her to go home and rest. Because you have overburdened your mind. When she was leaving after listening to her, a very serious case arrived, in which a girl named Laura had been acting strangely for a long time. Since then, when her professor was killed by breaking his face with a hammer, that girl Laura has become so nervous that she has lost control. When Rose first met that girl Laura, she was standing on the other side of the room, terrified and perplexed. She tells Rose that she can see something strange that no one else can. That thing can take the form of anyone, whether a relative, a friend, or a stranger. On the other hand, those who are no longer alive. That thing manifests itself in the form of my grandfather, whose death occurred in front of me when I was young. And he has a distinct personality. When he smiles, he always has a big smile on his face. That thing wants to enter me and take over. He has also stated that I will die today, which is why I am concerned. He's smiling at me, but not in a friendly way. Rose tells him not to worry after hearing all of his words. Our minds can be cruel at times. When she sees this, she becomes very nervous again. She was very scared and begins to fall down and move back. Because she was seeing that strange thing again, despite the fact that there was no one else in the room besides Rose. Suddenly, she becomes so ill that her breath stops and her mouth remains open while she screams. See, Rose calls quickly and asks for assistance. But as she turns around, she notices something strange. Laura is completely safe and standing in front of her. In addition, as Laura had mentioned, she has a big smile on her face. She also had a sharp object in her hand. And now, seeing this, she cuts her face and throat in front of Rose with that piece. And all while smiling. And she dies just like that, but her smile remained on her face even after she died. Rose was taken aback when she saw this. Today, she saw another person take his life in front of her eyes. She expressed regret that I was looking for this. But today, this second case occurred in front of her, and she was powerless to stop it. 2 police officers arrived to investigate the case, one of whom is Rose's friend. Rose tells the police officers everything Laura has told her. Then we noticed that the blanket that was covering Laura's body had a big smile on it due to the cut. When Rose returns home, we see her husband and her adorable cat. And whatever happened today, Rose informs her husband. So that her heart's burden will be lighter. They both go out to eat now to lighten the mood. They meet Rose's sister and her husband here. Rose's sister informs him that tomorrow is my son's birthday and he must attend. Rose responds that there is a lot of work, so I might not be able to come. They then tell Rose that she must sell her mother's house. It is being destroyed because it is empty. And if it sells, some money will flow in. Rose responds, no, that house is very special to me. Because that is where I spent my childhood. It is also my mother's last memory. She also believes that I spent time in that house after my sister left us. She was only thinking about herself. Anyway, Rose's friend, a police officer, comes to see her the next day at the hospital. He wishes to speak with her. Rose, on the other hand, was angry with him and refused to speak to him. Rose begins reading about Laura's professor after she leaves. The one who killed her with a hammer. Then she discovers that the professor died with a huge smile on his face. After such a long time, her sister's phone rings. While Rose is on the phone, she notices someone downstairs staring at her. And from a distance, Rose wanders into that crazy patient's room in this manner. He wasn't sad or nervous today. Today, he was also openly smiling. When Rose approaches him, he begins repeating himself. That everyone will perish. At the same time, he informs Rose that she, too, will perish. The amazing thing is that she was smiling while saying this. Rose begins to call for help in order to exert control over her. But she notices that the insane patient is fine. And he's in his bed. It means that whatever Rose saw earlier was all in her head. After learning all of this, the senior doctor is also taken aback. He also gives Rose a week off, so she can take a break. She is content. She visits the gift shop on her way home. To purchase a present for her sister's son, we see a toy family. They were all happy. Her husband's message arrives while she was packing the gift at home. I'll be late today because I have a lot of work. She was drinking alcohol with ease after that. Suddenly, the security alarm goes off. This makes her uneasy. F***K. She shuts the house's main door. And notices the back door is open. Despite the fact that she had closed it. Then the security phone arrives. She was simply telling the truth. The security guard then says, "Look back." She was terrifiedly looking back. The phone then abruptly begins to ring. The phone was actually in front of her, which was now ringing. And whatever Rose saw was all in her head. The police show up and search for the entire house. However, they discover nothing in the house. Her husband then joins her, who was bothered by Rose's mischievous behavior. Rose is bringing food to her cat, but he is nowhere to be found. He also vanishes unexpectedly. Then there was the time when she was sleeping at night. Her eyes open with a nightmare. She was unable to sleep again. That is why she begins to listen to Laura's recording. When Laura hit herself, she sees that. Then there was a faint sound from behind. As soon as she turns up the volume to hear it, then her mother's spirit appears and scares her. She falls out of her chair in a hurry, because she was witnessing everything. That's why she pulls out the knife right away. When her husband arrives after hearing her voice, he becomes very nervous when he places the knife in Rose's hand. Rose then visits her mental doctor, and she instructs him to write a prescription for me, so I can unwind a little, so that my mind can rest. However, the doctor says no. You are perfectly fine. Nothing bad has happened to you, simply rest. You'll be fine if you rest. Then she returns, disappointed. She then attends her sister's son's birthday party. She was making it appear as if everything was fine here. Now it's time to open Rose's present. His sister's son is taken aback when he sees the gift, because the gift contained Rose's dead cat. Everyone who attended the party was taken aback. Rose, on the other hand, was taken aback. What the hell is the matter with you? Then she notices that a visitor is staring at her. She's also flashing a strange smile. While there was nothing comparable, only Rose was able to see it. The visitor then approaches Rose very closely to save her as soon as she takes a step back. She then collapses onto the glass table. Glass shards end up in her arms. As a result, she sustained numerous injuries. She is then transported to her hospital, where the doctor was explaining something to her. A smiley face on a board is also visible here, which was in the way of no pain. When a person is not in pain, He then smiles. Rose returns home and tells her husband everything. Whatever was going on with her. But he doesn't believe her either. He also does not agree with her. He was actually terrified of her. That's why he wasn't even in the same room as her. Rose was looking after herself. She was also terrified. Because her mother's spirit was present. After witnessing all of this, Rose goes to meet Laura's professor's wife the next day. She informs Rose that my husband was also witnessing something similar. But she didn't have a smile on her face. Because it couldn't possibly be. The reason for this is that she had injured her face with a hammer. The professor had created numerous drawings of that thing, which she used to see over and over. There were also drawings of those who had passed away a long time ago. They also had a smile on their faces. Rose inquires as to when it all began. The professor's wife then informs her that she had just returned from a party. Then she noticed a woman who killed herself. This type of curse is their wine. That is, from one to the other. That woman died right in front of the professor's eyes. As a result, he was poisoned. The professor then died in front of Laura. As a result, she was poisoned. Also, Laura was dead in front of Rose. As a result, she has also been poisoned. And now it was time to find out how it all began. This refers to who died first. From the beginning of the curse. And how can it now be completed? Otherwise, Rose will perish in a few days. Rose informs the woman of what happened to her husband. It's now happening to me as well. Hearing this, the woman becomes irritated. And, without thinking, she kicks Rose out of her house. If all else fails, Rose seeks assistance from a police officer friend, where he was already prepared to assist her. According to the professor's records, an elderly woman died in front of him. Whose image can we see here? The man who died in front of her. His video is also available here. When this woman was filling up her car with gas. Then he appeared in front of her. And then he slit his throat and murdered him. That man had a smile on his face as well. She goes to her husband after gathering all of this information, so he can tell her the entire truth. When she returns home, she notices her husband sitting with Rose's doctor. Because she believes Rose's mental equilibrium has deteriorated, she requires medical attention. Rose becomes enraged as a result of this. And from here, she goes straight to her sister. She reveals everything to her. She, on the other hand, does not believe what she says. And says you're going insane like your mother. Rose becomes even more enraged as she hears this. And she informs her sister. What do you know about Mom's health? You were not with her at the time, you had fled. She becomes enraged and sits in her car after saying this. Her sister then pursues her as well. And starts scaring Rose by turning her neck. She was also flashing a strange smile. Rose's condition worsens as she witnesses this. And she starts screaming by herself in the car. Because everything she saw was a trick of the light. She now receives a phone call from a friend who is a police officer, who informs her that 20 similar cases have been discovered. 19 of these people took their own lives. And there is only one case where the individual did not commit suicide. He is a man who is currently in prison. His partner committed suicide in front of the man in jail. This implies that he was cursed. However, after a few days, instead of killing himself, that man murdered a woman. And the curse fell on the person who saw that man do it. He started moving forward again like a chain. This is another way to avoid the curse. Rather than dying, kill another person in front of a witness. And give him this curse. When these people go to jail, they will meet that man. Then he explains how to break the curse in the same way. That you will be forced to murder someone in front of a witness. because that witness will witness the murder. The curse will obviously fall on him. Rose says as soon as she hears this. No, I can't do it, I can't murder anyone. That man understands after hearing this from Rose's mouth that he is also a curse and is very concerned. That is how much I previously saved my life from this curse. If he kills himself in front of me, then I'll be back in all of this trouble. In this curse means get out of here. Both of them are then released from jail, where Rose's worry was growing, because the cursed man is doomed to die for 7 days. And people are frequently killed in 4 days. She begins her investigation after returning home. She comes here to see her doctor, and they both start talking. Rose then receives a call from the same doctor, despite the fact that she was sitting in front of him. Not the doctor in front of you. But it's that strange thing that catches Rose's attention. But we know she won't kill him now, because they are not accompanied by a witness who will witness his death. And, obviously, if this does not occur, the curse will then be lifted. Rose goes to her hospital after leaving there, in which she also brings a knife, because she intends to murder that insane patient. When that patient sees Rose, he becomes terrified. Where does the senior doctor come in such a long time? This was even better for Rose now, because she obtained a witness. She repeatedly assaults the patient in front of her. But the patient did not die, instead, he was laughing. In addition, the doctor now removes his face from his hands, because it was all Rose's dream. She remained in the car, and her gaze was fixed there. All of this was visible to her. She was concerned about everyone. That's when the senior doctor walks up to her and tells you that you should be alone right now. So you should be fine. Every day, the doctor enjoys this, because she will be alone as long as she is alone. That thing will be powerless to harm her, because she requires a witness. Rose eventually receives a phone call from a friend. I will now be alone, she declares. Because if I stay alone, that thing will be unable to harm me. And I will not perish. She cuts the call as soon as she says this. She goes to her mother's house to spend time alone, which had been sitting empty for years. And she'd left her phone in the car. As soon as Rose arrives at this house, we return to the past. Rose was a child. This is where the story began. We learn that her mother did not murder her. Despite taking more medications, she was still alive. She was simply ill. She was pleading with Rose for assistance. However, she did not assist her mother. She also did not call anyone, because she desired her mother's death, so that she could be delivered from her oppression and anguish. This is a dark secret, which only she is aware of. When she enters that room with a baton, she runs into her mother again. Her mother transforms into an odd devil and captures Rose, and claims that you cannot escape your mind. Rose attacks her with a baton after hearing this, and then sets it ablaze. The entire house then burns down. And so the curse comes to an end. She is now leaving and heading straight to her friend, where she discovers that this is not my friend, but it is the same thing. As a result, she rushes out of there, and notices she is still at her mother's house. She has not returned from there. Whatever she saw was happening in her mind. Meanwhile, her friend arrives, which was correct. That is, this time it was her friend. Then she suspects she is a fraud and enters the house. And she locks herself in the room, where she once again sees the devil in front of her. He cuts his face here and reveals his true form, which was a filthy creature with no skin, whose bones were all wrinkled. He crawls inside Rose and clings to her. As soon as Rose's friend walks in, She had previously sprayed petrol on herself. She kills herself by setting herself on fire in front of her. In this way, the curse was passed on to Rose's friend. As a result, we can conclude that the creature is a devil who came from hell. And no one is capable of breaking his curse. Then there's the question of whether there's a smile or a witness. In any case, he must proceed one step at a time. There is only one minor detail. If you want to be free of the curse, then murder someone else. However, if you intend to end it, then it is impossible. This is the end of the film. Thank you for watching.